So for our overarching issue, collectively our civic engagement project aimed to cultivate relationships and improve the quality of life for our communities, both locally and globally. And by contributing to our local and global communities, we raised awareness about our respective causes and provided valuable information or resources to those who need it. It helped a lot to see how this was impactful towards the community that we were living in. Hello, this is Christian Bedwell, and for my civic engagement project, I volunteered at the FGCU Food Forest. And you may be wondering, what did I plan to accomplish with my project? So for my civic engagement project, my goal was to learn sustainable growth practices so that I could contribute to a better quality of life and raise awareness of the importance of sustainability. I also grew and maintained the crops within the garden and improved the environmental sustainability of the institution by distributing those crops to the surrounding community. And I took efforts to improve the user experience of the garden. And a few examples of this is I made the garden more accessible to those with disabilities, and I updated the plant signage with up-to-date information which would allow people to learn the basics of sustainable gardening practices. My project objectives was to grow and maintain crops within the food forest garden, to dedicate my time over the course of a 9-week period, and to use my skill set in graphic design and photography to create posts for the food forest social media and update their signage. Now you may be wondering, what were the results of my project? Well, my project took a little bit of a different direction than I had originally intended, but the outcome still satisfied most of the objectives nonetheless. For instance, instead of using my photography skills to document plants for the database, I cross-referenced the plants with the plants in the database to make sure that the information was up to date as part of a signage overhaul. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use my experience in graphic design or photography to update the signage since the Food Forest coordinator, Marco Acosta, felt like it would be better as a potential internship opportunity considering the time constraint of the semester. So my hopes is that he will use the data I collected from cross-referencing the information in the plant database to make this happen in the future. I satisfied the project objectives of learning and applying sustainable agricultural practices and growing and maintaining the FGC Food Forest Garden, and I dedicated my time to the Food Forest over the course of a 9-week period, though this was partially limited due to lack of availability from social distancing constraints. Lastly, how did my project relate to course themes? Well, my civic engagement project related to the foundational elements of civic engagement, one of which being association. Since the volunteers all did not share the same motivations, but they worked as a group in accomplishing a common goal, I was able to see things from multiple people's perspectives and not just my own. And the associations between each of the volunteers were pretty positive since they were empathetic and willing to offer assistance with completing a task. Another element was serving, since the volunteers collectively served for the benefit of others in the community. Our service was beneficial because it yielded crops which could be distributed to the FGC food pantry and consumed by local people in need. And we also help maintain microclimates, which if you don't know what a microclimate is, it's essentially a small area that allows the food forest to alter the climate and utilize space more efficiently, and they can also grow non-native species of plants there. Regarding the foundational techniques of civic engagement, I use problem solving. So in the process of improving the user experience of garden walkways, I used my discretion in deciding whether the ground was level or if I should use, say, a machete to remove obstructions in the soil. Lastly, I use critical thinking since when transporting mulch to and from the food forest site, I took turns with other volunteers in order to maximize my efficiency and to give other people a chance to work on multiple tasks. So what are my perspectives after completing my civic engagement project? Um, One thing I learned is about the tools and techniques used in gardening, many of which could be applied in growing a garden on my own in my backyard. I have also gained an inner satisfaction knowing that I have performed a righteous deed in order to help alleviate local food shortages and to make the food forest a better place for people in the future. And of course, the people that I served were very appreciative of this. Um, my project also paved the way for future generations of students, especially those with disabilities, to visit or volunteer at the food forest.